Garland, uh, fresh off of the conference championship weekend. Transfer portal opened on Monday. Bowl games announced on Sunday. It's been it's been a pretty eventful week. A&M just secured a commitment from five-star running back Ruben Owens. So positive news for the Aggies after a pretty rough season. So we'll definitely take that. We didn't lose a game last weekend. That was nice as well. So all in all, things are pretty nice right now. But
Yeah, there's a lot of movement in college football, as it seems. Now, if you would ask Hayes Fawcett, it's only movement from Texas A&M. But
yeah,
you know,
it's a shock that we have any players left. If you follow Hayes Fawcett, I mean,
yeah.
like
And
even
coaches as well.
yeah, like even the equipment guys are probably in the portal now too. So
Yeah, that's true.
we're just gonna have to just go ahead and shut our program down. um, but yeah. So I had something I was gonna say. What was I gonna say? Um, we'll talk about this, obviously in future episodes. But just some of the things that we're seeing happen right now make me really excited for next season. Not just from an A&M perspective, but we talk about parity and like next year. If you look at it today, I couldn't tell you who the favorite is. Like all the big teams are going to have massive turnover. The portal is hitting everybody, not just the small teams or maybe the poorer schools, but like Bama's losing guys, LSU's losing guys, Michigan, like everyone's losing players that they want to keep. And first of all, like I just want to see where they all go because like, is there enough spots? Or are we just going to play musical chairs and just trade players and like, oh, you get an A&M guy, you get a Texas guy, we get a Baylor guy. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
just
that's
kind
what
of
that's
all over
what
the
it's going to
place.
be. And I mean, it's always been that way. Like when a guy transfers, it's like weird to see him at a new school, and it's like, oh yeah, he went to yada yada. But I mean, it's going to be even more so. This
Yeah.
is very very new, I guess. In that, I mean, I don't know. I'd like to see what the stats are on how many players went into the portal last year. You know,
Yeah.
because it just seems like it's a lot more this year.
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned earlier that before we got on that there was over 1,000 players in the transfer portal. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, I think the biggest thing for me on that is I would love to see us actually work the portal this year. I feel like we haven't really
Yeah.
hit that as much as we could have, but especially positions of need.
Right. Yeah. I think you do see that. There's some really exciting names out there, and A&M does not have a huge high school class as of now, even though they just added to it. They'll probably add some more to it, but they got spots. And I don't know if we've even said this on here, but there's not a limit anymore on what you can take. Like there's no class limit anymore. Like as long as you're under the limit of 85 roster spots, you can take 40 guys this year. If you have 40 spots open. So
I didn't realize they got rid of that.
yeah,
So like the initial counter thing is gone.
that's all gone. It's at least
Good.
suspended. I don't know if it's gone forever, but like it probably will be gone forever if I had to guess.
That brings up a point that we don't necessarily have to talk about today, but it is something that I've wanted to discuss on the podcast, which is, with all of the COVID years and the eligibility that got extended for so many players, like that's they're gonna have to either continue that forever, or there's gonna be a year or two there where the high school players basically get screwed because they suddenly cut it off, and it's like, well, there's all these guys in the portal, or we could take high school players, and I think it'll have a big impact there.
Yeah. Well, I need to go check this too because they're at least the first year after COVID, they laxed the 85 rule. I think it was like 90 or maybe 92, like just to allow for some of that that extra number. Like they knew they were going to be guys exercising that COVID year, and you still have high school guys that you have to go sign. So I think there was some kind of like 3-year plan to like reduce it by a couple, like go from like 92 to 90 and then to 87 or something like that. I don't know if that's still a thing or not, but I think they did do that for at least 1 year. So I'm not sure if it's back to 85 or where it is now, but yeah, like that's like the whole transfer thing is kind of, I didn't think this at first, but now I do. It's almost made high school recruiting a lot less important. Like A&M, I mean, look at LSU. They signed a small class last year, took like 15 or so transfers, and they won the SEC West. Now, it wasn't a great SEC West this year, but they won it. I mean, they did something that we haven't done yet. And Ole Miss took a lot of transfers. Michigan took a transfer lineman, and he's like the best lineman they have, and they're in the playoff right now. So I think you'll see A&M be pretty aggressive from that aspect.
It's a model that works, though. I mean, you look at what the Rams did last year in the NFL. Sell your future. There's proven players out there. Go get those proven players, add them to your team, and if it means you're sacrificing your future just a little bit, you can do that. In this case, maybe the schools that maybe aren't poised to make a run at the championship this year, those are the guys that are going to do the recruiting, the development, and then they're the ones that get ultimately picked off here in a few short years, unfortunately, because of they did good developing and those players enter the portal for whatever reason. I mean, like I said, the Rams did it last year, and now this year they're not having success, whether it's related to what they did last year or not. But they did get a championship out of it.
They got the ring.
Yep, sure did.
And they've been doing that. Like when they made the Super Bowl in 2017 or 18, whatever that was, they had the same approach. Like trade their draft picks. Like go get Jalen Ramsey. Go get this guy. like forget drafting and just go get the players that you know are good. And just forge your bet your future on it, and it finally paid off for them. But it's definitely interesting times, and with some of the COVID effects still lingering, guys like Spencer Sanders are he's in the portal now. He's played 4 years at Oklahoma State, and he's still got a year left. So I have where's he going to end up?
Yeah,
just all kinds of different things, but. I do want to switch gears, and we'll come back to the portal here in a bit. But time for our do we have a name for this segment yet? I was going to just say random question of the week, but
what did I call it earlier? The off-topic topic or something like that?
That works.
Topic of the week. That sounds good to me.
Right.
This one was from Hayden. I forgot what last week's was already, but
the blimp.
Hayden actually. The blimp, yeah, that was Chase's. So I guess I'll go next week because Hayden picked this week's.
Yeah. So I'm using my phone as my webcam, so I can't read it off. But I asked you guys what sport or event, I guess you could say, if you had all the time and resources that the professionals had. So you don't have your day job, you can put your family aside if you care to, or whatever you want to do. You had all the time and money in the world to go out and train and be a professional athlete or competitor. What sport do you think you could realistically have a run at, and or what would you just want to do? And I'll start because I have kind of two. The one that I think I could actually do is the biathlon in the Winter Olympics. It's the cross country skiing and the shooting. For whatever reason, I'm just you just ski and you shoot. I think I'm an okay skier, and
it's like
pretty well. So it feels like if that's what I dedicated my life to, I think I could do that.
They did that. The Rangers did that in World War II. Like they had guys that would ski into places.
That's how it started. I actually read up on it today after I thought of the question. Yeah,
there was a guy here in Waxahachie that was like a good friend of ours. He mowed our lawn like my whole life until he died. But he was a World War II vet, and he was one of Rutter's Rangers. And we've got this little bitty picture of him on skis with like his whole pack, and then they were skiing into this place. But pretty neat. Well,
Yeah, I thought you meant the Texas Rangers, like the baseball team.
yeah, no, so the Army Rangers.
I was like, I thought that, but then I put two and two together. So.
Shout out to the Rangers for signing DeGrom. That's the best move they've made in a while.
Yeah,
That's another off-topic topic.
Yeah.
Okay, so for I don't know. I don't want to be too terribly boring with it. My knee-jerk reaction is to say golf because it's just like the easiest. Like, I think I could be good at golf if I actually had some good training, and it's a fun sport to play. But I guess I'll say soccer because that was always my sport growing up. That was what I was good at, and I just I stopped playing in high school because they didn't have collegiate soccer at A&M, and I knew that's where I wanted to go. So what was the point of continuing to play? But I still have a love and affinity for soccer, so that's where I would go.
Yeah.
I don't think I have the frame to be able to be a football player. So
Yeah, that's the thing, like even if I had just unlimited resources, I mean, even to like PEDs, like I'm still not going to be suitable to play professional football. I guess I could be actually, I could probably be a pretty good long snapper. If I just had, hours upon hours every day to just learn how to long snap, I might could pull that off.
Yeah, that's fair.
But if I had to pick one, we'll get to Tayton's comment in a minute.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'd pick either golf. And golf has never been something that I'm super interested in, or that I was interested in until lately, mainly because my wife is an avid golfer. But it's fun. You can play until you're 80 or older, and like there's a course pretty much everywhere you go. And if I had like we said, like unlimited time, and I could afford like for Tiger Woods to be my coach or something like that, I could be a decent golfer. Like probably not like a tour level, but I could be at least formidable. But
Yeah.
Either that or something in weightlifting. Weightlifting something that I love to do, but I don't really have the desire to be a professional power lifter or bodybuilder. Like I don't want to be 5% body fat and old up in a thong on a stage. Like that's just not.
Hey, this is a family show. Keep it PG.
What you're saying is
it does not appeal to me.
If you had your choice, you'd play real sports, not trying to be the best at exercising.
Although it's debatable that golf is a sport.
I know drink Austin, while you play.
Yeah. Have you seen some of the golfers? Not exactly the world's best athletes.
So let's mention Tayton here. I said earlier, and I stand by this comment, but only alphas come out of El Campo, Texas. So I have a lot of faith in Ruben Owens as being a great running back for us. Never known anybody out of El Campo that I didn't like. So
the Rice Birds, great mascot. I don't know what a rice bird is, but that's what El Campo is.
Yeah, you completely lost me there. That's their mascot.
They have the El Campo Rice Birds.
Wow,
that can't be true.
I swear to God. Tayton, comment in the chat if it's the Rice Birds. They're also red and white, which is everyone knows the best color combo.
This is true.
Yeah. Does it say what a rice bird is?
No, but their mascot is Ricky Ricebird.
Love that.
He's got a name. Wow.
Oh, Ricky Ricebird, Rice Birds.
Well, let's hope that commitment sticks. That's one that I'm very excited about. I watched this film like right before we got on here. I remember watching this film a long time ago, but I hadn't really followed that recruitment. But
yeah,
evidently Jimbo has stuck with it from what everybody said, so that's good.
Yeah. So if anyone's unfamiliar, Ruben Owens is a 5-star running back from El Campo in this signing class. Committed to Texas early on. Decommitted, opened it back up, and then committed to Louisville. Louisville. They get mad when you say Ville instead of Vol. They're weird like that.
Louisville.
They love that. that's their favorite way to say it. But committed there. They've had some good NIL stuff going. They had a good quarterback and receiver committed. And Ruben was kind of part of that nucleus of that class. Well, then Cincinnati comes and hires the Louisville coach, and a lot of the staff left, and that was A&M's opportunity to get in there and flip it back towards the Aggies. So it's a huge get. 24/7. I've heard them talk about their how they rate players, and when it comes to running backs, they're not going to rate a guy very highly unless the guy has breakaway speed. Like if you can't, score on an 80-yard run at the college level, they're not going to rank you high. Like we're not putting like goal line backs as 5 stars. So Ruben is a terrific prospect. I've had a hard time trying to compare him to somebody because he's a tall back, but he's not like super he's not like a Najee Harris, like Derrick Henry type guy, but he is tall for a back. Great speed, great ability to make cuts. Very shifty.
He definitely has that cliche extra gear. Like
he
to your
does.
point, like the breakaway speed, like you can see where all these guys are keeping up with him, and all of a sudden he kicks on that afterburner and really breaks away from the guys at full sprint.
Yeah.
So that's good. He's got good size too for coming out of high school. Like,
yeah.
I think he could be a ready-made running back, which we're going to need. So,
yeah, when judging from some of his film and some of his 7-on-7 stuff, he's to me he's like a perfect modern running back because he's an excellent pass catcher.
Mm-hmm.
Can run routes, has great hands, great catch radius, obviously the speed. So you get a guy like him. I like the backs that we still have on campus.
Mm-hmm.
And go hire, a modern offensive minded OC to run this thing.
Yeah.
And Ruben can have a great career in maroon and white.
Well, and I'll kind of segue this too to say Devon Achane has officially said that he is declaring for the draft, which I've oft said that he's my favorite Aggie player, I think, of all time. I was a big fan of him. I kind of knew it was coming, but I had like a quiet confidence of maybe he'll come back. Maybe he will and can be the real team leader and hopefully end on a higher note to where he goes higher in the draft and that kind of thing. But he's going to be successful regardless. It's a big gaping hole, of course, because he was our entire team this year on offense, and he will definitely be missed. But this definitely lessens the blow because it immediately gives us, another guy in the waiting that can pick it up. I definitely think the other running backs that we already have on campus that haven't declared for the transfer portal, I think give us a good position where we're not going to have too much drop off. But it's good to know that we're going to be replenishing depth with a 5-star running back,
Yeah, so. For sure. And I did check before we got on. He is an early enrollee, so he'll be here in the spring. When we should have an OC hired by then. So he'll be able to come in, learn the system, hit the weights, all that sort of stuff. You still have Le'Veon Moss and Amari Daniels on campus. Still, pretty sure Ernest Crownover still has eligibility. So like having him around still. Obviously, Achane to the NFL, LJ Johnson to the portal. I think you might still see them go out and get a back from the transfer portal. Not to come in and start, but maybe just someone to have some depth or just come in and compete, those top three, like that's three really good ones, and I think you see Ruben play a lot next year. But you can't just have three backs. Like you got to have more than that, or four backs even. Like when you start getting injuries there, you're putting in walk-ons and stuff like that, and just a bad deal.
And now having the knowledge that you told us earlier about them not having the initial counter rule anymore, we had good depth at almost every position. So it's kind of like one of those things where, well, if we could just replenish what we lose, if we're going to lose two backs, let's take two backs,
Right.
And that to me always made the most sense, but you had to play the game both ways, with 25 initial counters and 85, roster scholarship guys. So,
well, I'm hoping like a new offensive approach will feature more rotation at the running back spot. Like, I love HA and I love Spiller and love Travion. Like all the guys we've had have been great, but I think there's an advantage to mixing it up sometimes. Like, if HA carries the ball 30 times in a game, he's gonna be gassed at the end.
Yeah, and that brings up a point, and this is a tangent point, so if you don't want to get off on it, that's fine. But you could say that about almost every position on offense. You could say that on most of our receivers. This year, we probably had the most receiver rotation, but a lot of that had to do with injuries and guys being suspended and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that is just the cause of that or if it's just a correlation. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, that's been one of my biggest frustrations with Jimbo's offense is that we never rotated receivers hardly at all.
Yeah.
And then running backs too. I mean, to your point, Travion carried it every snap just about. Spiller carried it every snap just about. But if you go look at, some of Jimbo's more successful teams at Florida State, there seemed to be more of an even rotation between his running backs. So what happened? Why did that change? Why aren't we doing that here?
Yeah.
And maybe it's that our players, maybe we don't have the actual depth there. Players aren't ready to play. But to your point, if we get an offensive coordinator who can come in, change up the scheme that might be a little bit simpler, it would be nice to know that we could rotate players more and more at every position.
I'm with you on that 100%. I guess we can kind of quickly go through some of the names that have left A&M for people that may not be, checking the 24/7 transfer portal on a daily basis like some of us are. But Haynes King, obviously, he's in the portal. Tip of the cap to Haynes King. Like he was not really healthy enough to play against Florida, but he did anyway because Connor had the flu and we had to have him.
Yeah.
And King was like, if you need to have me, like I can go. Like I'll suck it up and get out there. So I think he'll find success wherever he ends up. Obviously I think he's a terrific kid. Our future is Connor, and we're happy about that. But happy of what King gave to us, and I don't know, like he can end up at I feel like he'd kill it at a UTSA, something like that.
I think he'd kill it at like Oklahoma State.
He could do that too.
I mean, he reminds me. I think it's taken me forever to come up with a comparison to him, but I would compare him to maybe like Marcus Mariota, like a dual threat quarterback that probably needs to be like a quick decision making quarterback. Like it's either you got one read, and if not, take off. And we just didn't provide that for him here. I don't feel like, and I think he's going to be more successful somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I loved King, and when he came in, I mean, if you go back and listen to some of our old episodes, I know that I said that he's going to be a wonderful quarterback and all that kind of stuff, and he didn't really pan out like I had hoped. But I think part of that's because it just wasn't as good of a fit. And I think if he goes to a place with a simpler offense, he might really thrive, and you might see him he might be like a Kyler Murray type that's like, man, what we would give to still have him, but best of luck to him. I have been interested for probably 2 years now. How are we gonna address this quarterback situation? And then when we added Johnson in last year, it was like, whoa, it just got even crazier,
Yeah.
But it's all worked itself out. So
Yeah.
I'm glad to know my starting quarterback going into the offseason.
For sure. And on that note, it sounds like Johnson's going to stick around. So I think that's absolutely huge. Like, because King is in the portal, Eli Stowers is in the portal. You have 2 quarterbacks right now.
Yeah.
3 if you count walk-on Blake Boast. So you have 2 quarterbacks right now. And they do not have one committed in the high school ranks. So I think, with Connor pretty much being the entrenched starter, it's awesome to have Max as a backup. That's invaluable if something happens to Connor next season.
Mm-hmm.
But behind him, you got to have someone that's capable. So I assume they're still kind of scouring the high school ranks for a guy and see if they can get it on somebody. There's actually I don't know if this is going to happen or not, but there was a quarterback that Ruben Owens is tight with that's committed to Louisville, who may not be happy with the coaching change. So might try to
swing that one too.
Yeah. So it's just tough to go portal when you have a young guy like Connor. Like the guys in the portal are mostly older guys that want to, start right away, maybe just do a 1-year thing and then head to the NFL, or, maybe it's just their last year of eligibility. So that's going to be something that they have to look at. Some other names that there wasn't really anything surprising, like some of the freshmen that were, in trouble. I'm not sure if some of them would have had the option to come back if they wanted to be quite honest. Guys like PJ Williams, Denver Harris, the one that was not a knucklehead that did leave is Ish Harris, and I thought Ish could have been a pretty good player, but
yeah,
that's just the way it goes. What's most surprising to me is some of the older guys on defense that left. Like, I thought Andre White would probably just graduate and go to the league, but he's in the portal. I thought you could have used him next year. Miles Jones and Brian George, both somehow still have eligibility left. They're both in the portal. All of a sudden, cornerback is kind of a pretty thin spot. Jalen Jones declared for the NFL. I don't know if we hit that yet. So you really just have one guy coming back next year that's started any games. So
yeah.
I expect they probably hit corner pretty hard in the portal market. They do have some good high schoolers committed, but you do want some veteran guys there.
Who all is coming back at corner?
Tyreek Chappelle.
Mm-hmm. Deuce Harmon
is. There was smoke. There was smoke that Smoke Bowie might leave and follow Nick Williams to Colorado, but I think Smoke is going to stay. So you got him, and then Marcus Groves Killebrew, who he actually got in a few games there at the late in the year, but he was coming back from an ACL. I'm a huge fan of his. He should be full go in the spring and be able to make a move, but you do still have Tyreek Chappelle. He's kind of your go-to guy at corner.
Yeah.
Vitally important to keep him around. So it seems like that's going to happen. So it's, and like I said, they have some really, really good high school ones committed, but you don't want to rely on that to come in next year and make an impact. So
yeah.
An interesting name, Chase, you probably remember this one from, I guess, 2 years ago. Tony Grimes is in the portal.
Yeah, I saw that. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, "Oh man, I hope we go after him." He kind of his freshman year, he really, he looked to be everything that as advertised, because he really like he declared early, right? So he was
Yeah.
playing at 17 for UNC and was fantastic. I mean, he was
And
by far the best player on the field.
he played against us in the Orange Bowl.
Yeah, but then I really haven't heard anything from him since. And granted, I haven't watched too many of their games, so but that was an interesting name because it was really down to us and them, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
he was one of those guys that like he visited A&M. Like he's from Virginia, but like he visited A&M a lot throughout his high school career, and like he had that feeling of like, oh, that's the out of state stud that we're going to land in this class.
Mm-hmm.
And then North Carolina hired Mike. They hired Mac Brown, and he just turned the recruiting all the way up and got him to stay home.
Well, a big part of it too was didn't Mac Brown hire? What was that coach's name that we had?
Well, they hired
the station.
Oh, Tim Brewster.
Yeah,
yeah,
because
he was probably there during that time.
Because I seemed like, and I might be misremembering this, but it seemed like that Tim Brewster was his lead recruiter at A&M, and then they hired him away, and then he went to Florida, right? Like, didn't he go? He went to UNC for a year, and then like right after Mac Brown hired him was when Grimes decided to go to.
Yeah, and then he was at Florida for a year, and then I don't think he's been anywhere.
Yeah.
Since then, but yeah, like I think that'd be a pretty important target.
Mm-hmm.
And there's other corners out there, like the highest rated player in the portal right now is a cornerback from Virginia, like the University of Virginia, that is. And like A&M is going to like we talked, however long ago that was, 5-6 weeks ago, then the most important things to do were, keep the core young guys, Connor and Evan, etc.
Mm-hmm.
They've done that. Go hire an OC. I think they're about to do that. Let them call plays. I'm assuming that's going to happen. And just hit the portal as hard as you possibly can. And I think they're getting ready to do that. I know there's a linebacker from Oklahoma State who was second team All Big 12. He's in the portal. His name's Mason Cobb. He's going to visit this weekend, so that'd go a long way to kind of shoring up that linebacker depth.
Mm-hmm.
But like, go grab a receiver or two. Like, there's a ton of like playmaking receivers in the portal. Like, go get a veteran running back. Go get a couple of linemen.
Go get JoJo Earl.
Go get JoJo Earl. Hell yeah,
that would be fantastic. That's where I think I'm with you on that. Like, I feel like all signs point to that, because there's been this curious lull, and we really haven't loaded up on this class. And sure, a lot of our opposition would probably point to, oh, that's because y'all went 5 and 7 and nobody wants to come there. Well, we just landed a 5-star running back. Like it's that they don't look at that, but I think it was more that we were positioning ourselves to try and hit the portal. But I'll say, just outside of Jay Sternberger, I can't think of just a really home run hitting guy that we've pulled from the portal in Jimbo's tenure. And so, whereas you would look at Lincoln Riley and Alabama, you look at several of these other coaches that are like known for really hammering the portal. Jimbo wouldn't be on that list. And so we haven't proven that we can do that. And I'm hoping that we can prove that we can do that this offseason, because I think that's what we really need. But that's where, for me, I'm looking at it thinking logically, if Jimbo's not going to give up the play calling, why would he fire Daryl Dickey?
Yeah.
Why would we hire a new OC if you're not going to give him play calling? And then if we're not loading up this class with high school talent, then that leads me to believe that what was our Achilles heel this year? We were young. That was was very proven that we were way too young and too much youth on our team. We need some experience and leadership. We're not going to get that by just going into next season with the same guys plus some high school guys. We've got to pull some from the portal. So that's where I'm looking at saying, okay, well, if we have this lower class, I think that's because we're looking at the portal. We're going to try and get guys in. And, oh, by the way, we're hiring a new OC. If we get portal guys to come in and start in the spring, they're doing install right away in the spring, and doing install with a transfer that has 2 years of eligibility left versus doing an install with a kid who's trying to learn how to be a freshman in college at 17 years old, because he came in early, is a lot different. So I think there's a lot of, if the dominoes fall the right way, if we get a really good OC, and if we hit that portal really hard and get some really good talent this year from the portal, I think you can see a big time shift in our play calling next year and just our offense in general. I think you could see a big time change there, just an overnight change.
And I think I may just go ahead and make this point now and just kind of like add to it as the offseason goes on. But like I know that the 2022 season is not even over yet. Well, it's over for us, but like it's not, at large. But like 2023, I'm just fascinated by it because like Bama's going to lose Bryce Young and Will Anderson, among others, and they weren't that good this year. And to be quite honest, they're losing like they're losing starters to the portal. They're losing good depth guys to the portal.
They lost one of their starting O-linemen to the portal.
Yeah, Javion Cohen.
Yeah.
Lost some O-line. They've got at least 4 or 5 linemen in the portal. Like, I know, like, not all those guys were starters, but like, that's important depth. Like, you gotta have guys on the O-line. You can't go in there with just 5 guys. And I'm sure they'll hit the portal hard as well and go backfill. But, like Ohio State's losing a ton. Michigan probably still be pretty good, I would assume, next season. They'll lose some guys. And then Georgia's Georgia. Like they're going to have a ton of talent, probably a new quarterback. They'll lose some guys too. But you look around the country and like you could like, I think of teams like Penn State could take a big jump forward. Florida State. I think Clemson takes a step back. Even I think Klubnik's a pretty good quarterback, but just looking at the draft guys talking already, like they love those Clemson defenders, and it's kind of like it was 3 years ago where like they had an all-world defensive line and then they all graduated and then it wasn't quite as good. Like, yeah, it's going to be that drop off, but like even more drastic because they have not been recruiting at the same level. So,
well, and this makes me think of a benefit of the portal that I've never really like touched on and really haven't ever formulated the thought until right now. But the benefit of the portal is that when you're down, I mean, in college football, the rich get richer, right? So whenever you're really ramping up and you're really having good year after good year after good year, and it's getting better and better, your recruiting classes start getting better, which then, it just snowballs until you're getting better and better. But if you're getting worse and worse, it can snowball as well. And that's what we've seen with a lot of these blue blood teams over the last 10, 15 years, where they've just been terrible and they can't get out of that rut. But the portal's made it to where, you hear the analogy of, hey, let's reload, like we're losing all these guys. We got to reload. Well, with the portal now, it's like, well, hey, let's just switch weapons. You don't have time to reload. You're losing this ammo. Just, Call of Duty, it switch to your secondary. You know what I mean? And that's where you can reload in a sense, but you're getting a whole new plethora of guys that can transfer in. And I think that goes a long way for parity. I would often probably say that the portal is bad for college football, and that, we've got 1,000 guys out there that are looking to transfer. But if you're a team like us and you're saying, hey, we've got all the resources, we've got all the talent, we're focusing on getting our coaching, in order, but we don't want to wait 4 more years. We want to do it next year, but we went 5-7 this year. Well, if you went 5-7 10 years ago, you're going to have to fire your coach, hire another one, hope that in 4 years he recruits good enough for you to be good again. And you look at Texas, how well did that work? You look at A&M before Texas, how well did that work? It never did work. But now, our last week's episode, we mentioned TCU last year, 5-7. USC last year, 4-8. And yet they were both in the college football playoff until this weekend. But, you don't have to wait 4 more years. It can happen this year now. And I think a lot of that has to do with the transfer portal. USC, I think, is a prime case for this, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, you get a new coaching staff. The coaching staff didn't have to wait 4 years. They just got the transfers in. LSU is a great example of that too. So, I mean, I like that. I definitely like it from the lens of we just went 5-7 and we need to figure some stuff out, so I'm optimistic in that regard, but there's a contingency to it. We have to hit the portal and we have to get positions of need, and not just guys to fill those spots, but really, really good guys at those spots, and that's where you're seeing now very talented. We talk about, we're losing guys that were expected, but I didn't want to lose PJ Williams. I didn't want to lose, Denver Harris. I didn't want to lose Tunmise Adelio. Like, I didn't want to lose Haynes King, but we did. And that's happening across the country of all these teams. JoJo Earl, is a great example of that. So he could come in, start here day one if we were to lock him down, so I don't even know if we're recruiting him. I'm sure we are.
Oh, sure.
But yeah, I think, a guy like Tony Grimes would be perfect, a guy like Bama's O-lineman. I mean, if you're starting O-lineman at Bama, that's a pretty good prospect. I would much rather have that guy than I would a 4-star O-lineman out of high school.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think this may sound hot takey, but I promise I'm being genuine. Whoever starts at quarterback for Alabama next year, it's going to be the worst starting quarterback they've had in probably 6-7 years. Because they're not going to be Bryce Young, they're not going to be Tua, they're not even going to be Mac Jones level. I don't think. They can be a really good college quarterback, but like for so long, like when it was Kellen versus Tua, I'm like, Kellen's a good college quarterback, but he's not Tua good. Like Tua's, what was in talks for the MVP in the NFL there for a bit. He's not anymore, but really good NFL quarterback. Like that really separated Bama for the last 5-6 years to where like, hey, we're better than you at every position, and we're better than you at quarterback. like back when they had J.D. Coker and Blake Sims, like that wasn't necessarily the case. Like they would out talent you elsewhere, but not at quarterback.
Yeah.
And now like it's gotten to where, like what receiver at Alabama scares you? I mean, there's not one. Like this is the worst receivers they've ever had, and they're going to lose some of them to the draft. One of them are like 2 or 3 already transferred. Trayshawn Holden played a lot of games for them this year. He's in the portal. JoJo Earl's in the portal. One of their other like second-year guys is also left. I don't want to get ahead of myself because there's all these names in the portal, and Bama's going to get some of them. Like it's just going to happen, and they're going to recruit high school very well.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, you say that now, but what if they pick up Spencer Sanders? Or
I wouldn't be scared of Spencer Sanders.
I'm just saying. Like,
I want Alante to comment his feelings on Spencer Sanders. That's why I'm commenting something here earlier.
Well, I'm just saying that's one example. There's a few others that are very high level quarterbacks that are in the portal, and they could. I mean, they're Alabama. They could go after those guys, and they could very well pick up. I mean, this time last year, we didn't even know Max Johnson was on our radar. We didn't know he was on our radar until literally the day signing day. Like we woke up signing day and our first two guys that we had in were Max Johnson and Jake Johnson. We went to sleep the night before and had no idea that they were even being recruited by A&M. So, it's possible that Bama does that too, but yeah, I mean, I think you are starting to see a little bit more parity to that point, because there's so many unknowns now, and I mean, every team's going to look very different every year. And I like that. I really like that, because it's likely to prevent there being as many dynasties, in college football. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just kind of think that you're going to see a lot of guys move around so much that all of a sudden here's this team pop up that was 5-7 last year, and then now they're going to the college football playoff. I mean, that happened this year, so it's going to continue to happen, I feel like.
Back when, the first year that Auburn hired Gus, and they made the title game but lost to Florida State and Jimbo Fisher, they were god awful the year before. Like they were like 3-9, like lost to Louisiana Monroe, horrible year in Auburn football. They hire Gus. They get this Georgia defensive back named Nick Marshall, put him at quarterback, and they got lucky as hell a little bit too in some of those games, but they still made the title. Like it's even more more doable now that you can go like a team like A&M. Not that like I will give this caveat going into next season. I'm going to feel probably similar to how I felt going into the 2020 season. I don't really know what to expect. Like, especially after this year, like, 6 months ago, I would have said, like A&M is a title favorite in 23. I would not say that today.
Right.
Not at all.
Me neither.
But you could see a team like A&M that just had the year that we had with a bunch of young talent, a lot of injuries, make a bounce back the next season to maybe, 9 or 10 wins. That's not unheard of.
Yeah, that's not. In fact, I expect that probably will happen, and that's not me being overly optimistic about A&M. That's just saying that's what we should have had this year. If you really go back and look at all the games, both the games that we lost and the games that we won, it was down the wire on almost every single thing. And I said after the Bama game that was a perfect example of A&M's season. We're 2 yards short. 2 yards short from a win against Bama, and like we were on the cusp, but we couldn't execute at all this year, and it just, you had that overwhelming dread of like, oh man, like we could win this game, but we're not going to, and that was like that on almost every single one of our losses. And so if we had a year where we're healthy and we have the majority of our guys back, if we can hit the portal hard, if we can get some changes to our offense, it's not out of the realm of possibility at all that if we just execute a little bit more, suddenly 5 of the 7 losses that we had this year aren't losses anymore. We didn't lose to App State because we made it out of there with a last minute touchdown or whatever. We executed at the goal line against Bama and we won that game last minute. We won against Auburn because we, had a last minute drive to win the game. That's what we need. We need that like winning spirit, and we didn't have that this year, but it doesn't take a whole lot to get there, from where we're at, the position we're at,
Yeah.
So very
also,
possible.
If you look at next year's schedule, extremely forgiving. You get Alabama and Auburn at home. South Carolina's back at home. Mississippi State, thank God, is at home. Piss on Starkville. Until proven otherwise, I'm going to pick that game as a loss whenever it's over there. We better go over there in 24 and beat the brakes off them for me to ever pick us to win there again.
Yeah.
But they're here next year. The really the game that scares me the most is at LSU. I just don't like that's kind of the same thing until we go win over there. LSU will probably be very good. They do get Keishawn Butte is coming back, so that's a big boost for them. We're also at Tennessee, who will lose Hooker and some other guys off the offense. We'll see how they're looking, but very manageable. But I do want to wrap up with maybe some interesting guys that are coming back or that are in the portal or that have left that are notable, like Anthony Richardson at Florida. He's declared for the draft. I don't know if he's going to be in the playing in the ball game or not, but that's a big loss for them. They have a stud freshman coming in. They'll probably target one of these portal guys. And then you have a guy like KJ Jefferson at Arkansas who's coming back. So that makes that game, just as tough as it has been the past 2 years facing him. So that's going to be a tough matchup next year. And then Chase's guy, Brennan Armstrong, he's in the portal. He lit the world on fire 2 years ago. Was a stud player in fantasy, but I feel like Virginia did not have the guys around him for him to be successful. So that's a guy he could land at a I don't know, like he could land at an Alabama or like Oklahoma State or somewhere and just go tear it up.
Yeah, absolutely he could. Their offense this year wasn't good enough for him to really thrive, and that was like something that they were saying going into the year. But he is a very good quarterback. So, did you say Hendon Hooker? Did he declare? Or is he in the transfer portal?
Well, I think he's officially out of eligibility at almost 25 years old now. But he hasn't said anything officially yet. But unfortunately, towards ACL and that loss to South Carolina, hate that for him. But very very expected that he will leave. I'm not sure that he even has the option to come back, to be honest. But
I'm kind of curious if Haynes King ends up at Tennessee.
Would be interesting.
I mean, it was down to the wire, us versus Tennessee on his initial recruitment.
Much simpler offense.
Yeah, and he would thrive there. He would do good.
How about Spencer Rattler? I haven't seen anything about him. I assume he's coming back.
I haven't seen anything about him either, so I assume he's coming back. I mean, they seem to be on an upswing, so I think South Carolina will be a lot better next year than they were this year, and they were playing some good football at the end of the year.
What's weird is their stud tight end Jaheim Bell. He's in the portal, and so is Austin Stogner, their other tight end. But obviously, I think Beamer's got it going on over there. I think Rattler hit a different gear at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So to get him back, love their running back, Marshawn Lloyd. They could be a nice team next year. Thank goodness we have them at home as well.
Yeah.
I was trying to look on our schedule and see who was changing quarterbacks, and a lot of the same faces. Arkansas is keeping theirs. Bama will have somebody new. Tennessee, somebody new. But then South Carolina, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, they'll have the same guys. I do wonder about Jaden Daniels at LSU. This was his fourth year. Had a pretty good year. He could be a guy that declares. They could be in the market for a Brennan Armstrong or Devin Leary, somebody like that. This whole thing has made our fantasy league extremely interesting.
Yeah,
like I keep seeing the names, so I'm like, oh, he's on so and so's team. He's on my team. He's on so and so's team.
Maybe I'll be good next year.
It's gonna stink though if they transfer down to a G5 school and you got to drop them.
Yeah. Yeah, that won't be good.
Also, have we mentioned that DJ's in the portal?
Yeah.
DJU speculated that he'll go to UCLA, which I heard this on Cover 3 earlier. He's pretty similar to what Dorian Thompson-Robinson does, and UCLA's finally losing him this year. So that could be a good fit over there with Chip Kelly.
Well, he's from California, isn't he?
Yeah. Which also his younger brother is a 5-star, high 4-star defensive end. Also from California, and whatever school gets DJ will probably get his younger brother now, especially if it's UCLA, somebody like that. But there was somebody else I wanted to bring up. Now I just messed up my tabs. This is great audio. Who was it? Oh, Drew Sanders. He's declaring. Very good linebacker for Arkansas this year. Arkansas had some good hits. Like, what's weird is they only went like 6-6 this year, or whatever they did, 7-5 maybe. Like they had some good players from the portal, but just couldn't really put it all together.
Yeah. But
they're running back Raheem Sanders. He's only a sophomore. He'll be back.
And isn't their backup quarterback
Hornsby?
Hornsby, isn't he in the portal?
He is. Yeah.
Good.
I wonder if he is committed to being a quarterback, or if he would rather be, a receiver or something like that.
I don't know. I kind of feel like a guy like him goes to college. All those players go into college thinking like, here's what I want. I want this, and you take like a who's the guy that burned the A&M hat?
Harold Perkins.
Like he was so adamant about, I want to be a running back and a linebacker wherever I go.
Yeah.
Like
took 0 snaps at running back this year.
Yeah, they always want to be the guy that does something different, because most of those guys, they're the end all be all in high school, so they just assume that they're going to go to college and still be that, and then they're not. I mean, I remember going to my fish camp, and I was the president of my class in Waxahachie, and then I started talking to all these people at fish camp, and literally everybody there was president of their class too. And it's like, oh, cool. Well, nice to be amongst all these presidential people, but like in high school, you think like that's such a big deal, but then you just don't think about how there's a big deal every single place, and you're one of a million instead of one of 100, And so I feel like Hornsby, he was so adamant he wanted to be a quarterback that like he could be a good prospect for us. Like if we brought him on as a receiver and basically do the opposite of what we did with Eli Stowers, just tell him like, hey, look, we're going to play you at receiver because that's where we think that we're going to play you. But if something happens, Connor gets hurt, we're moving you to quarterback. We need that depth, I think something like that would be good. I mean, I feel like that's how we could use Yule Keith. If we need running back depth, we can always move him back to running back. But Hornsby, I feel like could be a really good fit for Jimbo's, Anais Smith type guy, that could do anything and everything.
Well, at a certain point, like he needs to think about his NFL future. Like he can be an NFL receiver, like just insane athleticism and speed. And if like I'm not trying to tell him what to do, but like he has those gifts, and like like he's got a good arm, but I think switching to receiver would probably be an easier path, and I think he'd be amazing at it. So,
and I feel like if you're a backup quarterback, that kind of teaches you like, okay, do I want to go somewhere else and be the backup there, or do I want to be the starting receiver? I think you have a different outlook whenever you have that life experience. So, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he went somewhere to be just a receiver.
Yeah. Also, the quarterback at Washington, Michael Penix Jr., he's coming back. He lit the world on fire from a passing yards perspective this season. I think if he didn't lead the country, he was close. Like he threw for a crap ton of yards at Washington.
He is also on my fantasy team.
Yeah, I looked him up the other day to see who had him. I'm like, man, like who's got this guy? Like who's playing him? But great for you, Chase. Congratulations.
Thanks.
And the Huskies could be formidable next year. But also Jordan Travis, the Florida State quarterback. He's coming back for another year. He's kind of a guy I've got circled as like potential Heisman candidate type of guy. Man, I hate that I'm doing this to myself just because we haven't had a single bowl game yet. I'm just like, man, I can't wait for next year. And not even for A&M's sake, just to see, like, I'm really more fascinated just to see where these guys end up. Like not every kid in the portal is from Rhode Island or, Murray State or something. They're from like, Michigan and Tennessee and Florida. And like, there's, it's a giant game of musical chairs and we're all just trading players and seeing who comes out on top.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, anything else that we wanted to get into?
I don't think so. I think we covered that pretty good. We're obviously going to have a lot of development over the next, really probably till February, on portal guys, recruiting classes, all of that. Let's see. I guess next week will be early signing day, won't it? Is it the 12th or is it the 21st?
I think it's 21st.
21st. Okay, 2 weeks then. But still, we're down the wire on that.
Yeah.
So we'll have a lot more clarity on how things are going to look next year.
Yeah.
Here in the next few weeks.
Well, I think you see a lot of portal candidate, or like a lot of portal players take visits this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Not just A&M, but like everywhere, like across the country. Like It's going to be portal madness. Just lots of traveling going on. And the thing for them is they don't have a signing day. They can make their decision whenever they want. So that'll be interesting to follow as well. If we have news on the OC, we might try to get back on here. I don't want to promise anything, but that could break at any moment. I've got some thoughts about who it might be, but gonna keep those holstered for now. We didn't talk playoff at all. How do you guys feel about these semifinals?
I'm happy with the 4 teams. Do
you think that Bama had a shot to get back in? Was that something like I was worried about it at one point?
I think it was just storylines.
I really didn't. Yeah, I really didn't see that would actually happen. But I mean, they're always going to have Bama in that group. They're always going to talk about Bama as if, same reason why the Bama quarterbacks are always on the list of the Heisman candidates. It's Bama. So they feel like they have to put them on there. They have to have that conversation. But no, I didn't really think it was possible for them. There's too many good teams that I felt like would have gotten the nod over Bama.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad they did. And I'm really glad they kept TCU 3.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were going to drop them to 4. Like I had no faith in the committee to make the right decision there, but they did. Good for TCU. Great year for them.
Definitely.
I mean, that was a tough loss. I know they wanted to win that game badly. Ultimately, you still get in the playoff. That's still a pretty great prize. And we get to see Georgia and Ohio State play. That's what I wanted all along. Even though I was rooting against it last week, I was hoping to keep Ohio State out, but USC does not have a defense. Man, I looked up something and somebody put this together of what a 12 team would look like this year. And like with the conference championships having so much importance, it would have been wild. Like Utah and K-State would have secured playoff spots by winning their conference title games last week. Um, Ohio State would be in, but not have a bye. Like all kinds of madness. Clemson would have been back in it.
I can't wait for the 12-team format. It's gonna make the playoffs so much more fun.
Yeah.
Right now they just seem kind of like it's a playoff. It's like okay, yeah, here are the 4 teams they're gonna play, and I think having the 12-team format is gonna be way better.
Do y'all think Georgia's a lock, or do you think? I guess. Do you think they're a lock, or do you think otherwise? Do you think there's like one of the other 3 teams can beat them?
I think any of the 4 that are in that grouping could win. I don't think anybody's a lock this year. I think the case could be made for all 4 teams, and that's exciting because most times there's at least 1 or 2 that you're like, yeah, they're not going to do anything, and then they never do. Notre Dame and Cincy.
Notre Dame again.
Notre Dame again. So, no, I think I could very well see TCU beating Michigan. I think Michigan's a favorite there, and I think Michigan's probably going to win that game. But I could see TCU pulling it out there.
Yeah.
And I feel like Georgia Ohio State's going to be a great game, great matchup, and that's a toss up to me.
Yeah,
I wouldn't call them a lock by any means.
Yeah. Like my head says Georgia, but I've got just a gut feeling that Michigan can win it all. Like I feel like they had a great team last year, and they've improved. Like they're still really, really damn good. Their quarterback is more of a playmaker than what they've had. They lose their star running back and replace him with another star running back that rips off 75-yard runs. Defense is awesome. I don't know. Like Georgia should be the presumed favorite, but man, like like honestly, I don't even like Michigan. Like, but I'm just thinking like it's something new. They haven't won in years, and I don't know. I feel like this could be their team of destiny.
You know what? I'm all in on TCU. I want TCU to win. I don't necessarily think they will, but I want them to, and I'm going to be rooting for them because, they haven't won a national championship since 1938. So if they win it this year,
that makes me want them to not win it.
No, if they look at it this way, if they win it this year, they went 5-7 last year, and then came back and won it, and they hadn't won a game since 1938. We haven't won it since 1939. We went 5-7 this year. That means if they do it, then that means that we could do it next year. That's my thought.
Did you also know that this is the first major bowl game that Tulane has made since they lost to A&M in the Natty back in '39?
I had no idea that was a statistic.
They mentioned it on Cover 3, but they didn't say who their opponent was. I was like, man, don't leave A&M out of that. That's our one title. Put some respect on our name.
No, we won in 1919 too.
Yeah, that's true. No one scored on us.
Yeah, unscored on.
My last little point here is, for the longest time, like until like the last few months or so, maybe even the last year, I have hated every team that was within 500-mile radius of A&M. Like, I don't want any team that's close to our talent pool to do well. Like, to hell with Texas, to hell with Baylor, to hell with Arkansas and LSU, to hell with all of them. But in today's day and age of the portal and NIL, like it almost makes it more like pro ball in a sense where like if a team I hate wins, I don't really care. Like it doesn't affect the Cowboys. Like Texas winning would affect A&M's recruiting, but we're still going to recruit well.
Yeah,
because we got stacks. So
I have an affinity for TCU. A lot of my family went to TCU, but they recruited Waxahachie really well. Dew Brown went there. Jalen Rager went there.
Yeah,
there's another kid that went there. I can't think of his name. It was the same year as Jalen Rager, but so a lot of Waxahachie kids have gone to TCU through the years and done well there. So I would just love for TCU, I guess, in the college football playoff era, that would be the first Big 12 team to win the national championship, wouldn't it?
Yeah, they're the first team since they're the first Big 12 team aside from Oklahoma to make the playoff.
Yeah. So
and also the last team west of the Mississippi to win a title was Texas in 05.
But I also like, for parity of college football, it would be great for TCU to win, because that gives some new life to the Big 12. And
it also gives me hope that maybe we can one day do it.
Exactly. They're 1938 to 2022 or 1939 to 2023. It's a Cinderella story, especially if we had the same offensive coordinator.
I think, man, I wish the 12th team was next year, because I think the days of Alabama and Ohio State and Georgia just being the presumed champion every year, I think those days are going to be behind us pretty soon.
Yeah.
You're going to have teams cycle up like a TCU, like a Penn State, like a Washington. It's going to be like it was in the 90s. Colorado won a title in the 90s. They might win another one with Deion Sanders. We didn't talk about him today.
Yeah, I'm not buying that. I'm selling that.
Hey,
he's already put his foot in his mouth like 4 times since he's been hired there.
It's going to be the best entertainment. I wish they would just live stream his entire tenure there. They can make so much money. But that's going to do it for us. Thank you guys for tuning in. I like our traction here. I feel like we've got the ammo to, make it through bowl season, make it into the off season. There's going to be transfers, there's going to be hires, there's going to be a new offense. Other sports, maybe basketball, not doing so hot right now, but the Cowboys might do something.
We don't talk about that. Whenever we talk about them, they lose.
The Eagles are going to be the Super Bowl champs. They won't lose a game the rest of the year.
That's right. NFC Beast.
He's Hayden Garland. He's Chase Caldwell. I'm Will Stone. You've been listening to the Ineligibles podcast. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week.